right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Again, my name is Brittany DeFilly. I'm the Educational and Outreach Coordinator here at Vertex. Today, we're going to have a great presentation on WatchGuard's AuthPoint and some of the reasons why organizations are going to need multi-factor authentication. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carla, and she's going to go ahead and start our presentation. Here you go. It's all yours.
Thank you so much. I'm going to advance the slide. Hello and welcome to our session today on WatchGuard Technologies. I'm Carla Roncato, the Vice President of Identity, and joining me today to talk about multi-factor authentication is Fabio Mansur out of Brazil. He's the Product Manager for AuthPoint MFA. For this webinar, I'll spend a few moments to provide a high-level overview of WatchGuard as a company. We're 100% dedicated to supporting managed service providers, MSPs, managed security services providers, MSSPs, and partners like Vertex Consulting. We focus on mid-market, small and medium businesses, and state and local governments globally. We do not sell direct to enterprise customers. And with that, let's get started. So the WatchGuard platform focuses on 5 capability areas to support the most common threats facing businesses and organizations today. You'll look to the right hand around clarity control. We have capabilities here for centralized security policy management, threat remediation, visibility, and reporting to streamline security administration. This helps MSPs do the best possible job managing their organizations that they support from a service provider perspective. We also provide a complete security portfolio. These are specific products under network security, Wi-Fi security, identity security, and endpoint security. We have that complete portfolio that is there for protecting users and devices. We have another layer to our capability called shared knowledge around threat and identity. As a fully integrated platform, this is really the glue that creates the zero trust identity-based security posture for deploying a true, what's referred to as XDR based approach to threat detection and remediation. We also have capabilities around operational alignment. So this includes integration and ecosystem capabilities, our API strategy, the hundreds of integrations we have, as well as operational capabilities for a range of payment and consumption models that work for every type of business to streamline business operations. And last but not least, this platform is underpinned by automation to make both the business and security built in to simplify every aspect of security consumption, delivery, and management. And with that, I'll just show you a quick stack diagram, which shows you essentially what I just referred to as clarity control, complete security, shared knowledge, operational alignment, and automation. And today we're going to talk about identity security and more specifically, multi-factor authentication. All right, let's get into the business challenges. Whether you're a small or medium business or a state and local government, there are a significant number of workforce challenges when managing identities. So the human element always contributes to drive breaches. In 2021, according to the Verizon Data Breach Investigations Report, 82% of breaches involved a human element. Whether it's the use of stolen credentials, phishing, misuse, or simply errors that people make, people play the majority of role in incidences and breaches alike. While the enterprise has lower vulnerabilities related to credential theft at 61%, small and medium businesses have a higher percentage of credential theft than enterprise at 75%. So when you look to the middle here, the average employee has 27 passwords to remember, and this is particularly relevant in small, medium business and government as well. 27 passwords is a lot of passwords to try to remember. And if you add in personal and social credentials, things that you may use in your personal life, the percentage of potentially reused passwords is actually quite high at 73%. But for corporate reuse, we see a percentage here of 61%. And as we move to the right and look ahead, we looked at a recent Gallup poll of the mid-market and small business, and they report that 55% of businesses will continue to support hybrid and remote work arrangements. And while 42% of SMBs are planning to enable better security controls, research by the Cyber Readiness Institute indicates that SMBs and small and local governments do not have the resources or expertise to evaluate and implement new identity controls like multi-factor authentication. And that's really why you need a partner like Vertex Consulting to help you. All right, we're going to go through what is multi-factor authentication. At a high level, multi-factor authentication is something you know, such as a PIN, password, or passphrase, and it's knowledge that you have. Another part of multi-factor is something you have, such as a mobile phone and an authenticator app, or perhaps it's a USB hardware token or smart card. Some government entities require smart cards, for example. Something you are, such as a fingerprint, face, or voice recognition. And something you do, it's often referred to as behavioral, things like being left-handed or right-handed, or keystrokes, mouse movements, and even geolocation. A combination of these factors is what really leads to multi-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication benefits. A lot of SMBs indicate that they're not aware or as up to date on some of the benefits of multi-factor authentication, so why you should implement and deploy MFA across your environment. So the data shows, this is from Microsoft and Google and a number of very large identity providers globally, that MFA is effective at preventing 99.9% of account compromise. So these are phishing attacks and social engineering attempts to try to compromise an account and trick you into giving away your password. In addition, 99% effective, 0.9% effective in automated attacks. So automated attacks are things like bot farms and tools that can scale and continue to try to brute force. They use dictionaries, rainbow tables, and databases from the dark web as an example, but it's very automated. One of the other benefits, which often is brought up as friction, is that and a reason for not deploying MFA into an environment can be because of user adoption or friction. But the data shows that 68% of small businesses, medium, mid-market, and enterprise use push notifications because of its ease of use and because of the fact that it has very little or low friction to the user, in line with what they're trying to accomplish in the first place. And finally, it's a relatively low cost per user per month. It can be as low as $1 to $2. And when you compare it with the cost of cybersecurity insurance, you can see this breakdown here in the US. It's nearly $1,500 for the average cost of cyber insurance per year. The premium range can range from $650 as high as $2,300. The liability coverage is about $1 million, and the deductible is $10,000. So for an organization, depending on your size and whether you have the number of employees, MFA can significantly improve your security posture when it comes to protecting your users' devices and assets, and especially preventing ransomware and data breach. But moreover, it's mandatory for cyber insurance coverage today. So it's a benefit no matter what your plans are. So I'm going to also cover the top use cases for MFA in the SMB and state and local government sectors. This research also comes from the Cyber Resilience Readiness Institute. And essentially what we see for those customers and government entities that have deployed MFA, these are the top 6 use cases. 56% focused on laptops and desktops. These are inclusive of both Mac and Windows. 45% are using MFA for databases and servers, which is really where the big data sits. 44% focusing on accounting and finance software. Again, financials, that's why the adversaries are pursuing financial gain. 40% on human resources software. If you can take more identities about people, then you can also continue to pursue attacks against the organization. 33% for email, calendar, and productivity software. And last but not least, 28% use MFA for virtual private network access or remote access scenarios to corporate resources. All right, introducing AuthPoint MFA. I'm going to hand this over to my friend and colleague, Fabio.
Okay, thank you, Carla. So just giving a quick overview of the capabilities of AuthPoint and how we can cover these scenarios and these needs for the MFA. AuthPoint helps to protect the identities that can be like local and enterprise. When you say enterprise, you can protect the identities that are hosted in Active Directory or in Azure, for example. And here on the right, you see the list, or at least an idea of the coverage that we have, for example, for web applications that supports SAML, for example, as a protocol. Is a very common protocol to be added for MFA. So the main used or most used applications like Office, Salesforce, Citrix, GoToMeeting, we have all of them integrated, validated by our ecosystem teams, and documented the integration. So it's a very easy process to add these applications into your configuration in AuthPoint. We also support those enterprise environments, remote access to endpoints, remote access to servers, and the local access to the machines like Windows and Macs, as Carla mentioned in the previous slides. For our remote access as well, like you're doing an RDP to a remote server. And VPNs, of course, is most common a very common use case. And we support not only VPNs with our own fireboxes, but also with firewalls from other vendors as well. So it's a pretty comprehensive set of integrations. And web portals, you can even custom your integration. If you have an in-house developed web portal, for example, an application, you can also use AuthPoint via APIs to support MFA for this in-house developed. And for the end user perspective, we provide the most convenient way, like Carla mentioned, the push notification. But we also provide ways to do online and offline authentications using QR code and OTPs, and also the hardware tokens. Hardware tokens are also manufactured by WatchGuard itself, so we don't depend on third-party vendors to provide hardware tokens, even though we also support hardware tokens from other vendors. So you see that we cover all of this. And there is a comment about our, can you go to the other slide, please, Carla? Yeah, thank you. So I was saying, for the end user, we have this facility to use the push-based authentication. It's pretty convenient and it's safe, as we show also the information of the context of the authentication, like who is trying to authenticate, from where you're trying to authenticate, and to what you're trying to authenticate. Like, I'm here in Brazil. If I receive a push notification from someone that's trying to use my credentials to access VPN, for example, from another country, is going to indicate to me that's coming from a different place. I don't recognize that. I can simply deny the push authentication, and easy as that. And our mobile token, we have a feature that ties the token to the mobile where you activated that. So different from other common tokens like Google Authenticator that are only OTP based, you cannot copy or install the same token in a different mobile. So it's tied to what we call the DNA of the mobile token. So once you install your mobile token, it's only gonna authenticate or validate the authentications on your mobile phone. So even if someone clones your phone or tries to activate in a different phone or clones, authentication won't work. It won't recognize as a valid token in this case. So we are pretty much covered on this as well. So now I'm going to start sharing my screen to do a quick demo. Let me see if I can share correctly here. How do I select this screen? This what?
There we
do
go.
You see my web browser? Okay, thank you. Sorry for that. So I'm gonna just quickly in a few minutes show the experience, and you're gonna see a bit of experience from the administrator or operator point of view. That's person of the company that's responsible for configuring, setting up, and putting MFA in place in the company, and also a bit from the experience of the end user, right? So when I add a user, how is the token activated, and how can I do an actual authentication in a resource that I'm protecting, okay?
Hey, Fabio, we actually had a question come in. They're asking about, do hardware tokens time out? And if so, after how long? Did I lose you, Fabio?
Fabio?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. So I understand you're talking about maybe a lifespan for the token. We don't expire the hardware token. So once you purchase a hardware token, we have a 3-year warranty for the batteries. Usually it takes longer to run out of batteries. So it lasts until the battery goes out. It should be like 5 years or something like that.
I think he's asking if, like the push notifications, does it time out after a certain amount of time?
Yeah, the authentication itself, regardless it's a hardware token or a push notification, they have a timeout period. So a token is generated every 30 seconds in our phone, if it's a mobile phone or if it's a hardware token. So each 30 seconds, you are presented a new OTP, and you can use that to authenticate. After 30 seconds is not the time that the token is valid. It's actually the time that you generate a new one, but you have a slightly larger window to validate that token to compensate for differences between time from the server and from the token, regardless it's mobile or the hardware. So it takes a couple of minutes to expire, but it expires after a few minutes. There are some there's a different type of OTPs that's called event-driven OTP or event-based OTP that don't expire. They is just like consumed and validated after you use that, but it's not in our case. In our case is a time-based OTP. So after a couple of minutes, it is invalid anymore. So if a hacker or someone has access to your phone, they copy the OTP, he won't be able to use that after a couple of minutes.
Perfect. That was Jim's question. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is our WatchGuard Cloud. Not sure if someone already had the chance to take a look and see that, maybe for other products. But like Carla said in the first slides, it's our goal in the future is to integrate all the products, have a single pane of glass for other products to manage and use from this. But let's focus now on the AuthPoint, on the MFA part. And on this part here on the left, it's more for the service providers, so like Vertex managing you as a customers, and they can have accounts for each of their customers or each one of you, like an independent and totally segregated account here. So you don't have access to any other customer's data here. I already set up a trial license. The process to set up a license, a trial, is really easy, straightforward. We're going to give a link at the end of the presentation for you to have access to it if you want to do from Vertex. So I'm starting here from an account that already have a license, but it's like it's an empty account. It's like you start from scratch. You have no users. You have nothing configured here. So let's just do a quick configuration here. You're going to see that's pretty easy. Here on the option to configure, you have the AuthPoint option here. You have other services available here, but let's go here to AuthPoint. And this is mostly where you do the AuthPoint configuration. In the end, I'm going to show you here the wizards. The wizards help you to go through this configuration. So everything that I'm going to do here can be done through these wizards or supported by these wizards. And of course, we have the help files and documentations to help you to guide through this as well. So I would say that everything starts here from a group. So let's add here our first group. That's our webinar group. I'm just going to save it. And I'm going to associate users to this group. Okay. We have, like I said, we support different ways to input users into AuthPoint. The easiest way, or the most convenient for the demo here, is to add manually a user, type in the information, but we can also do synchronization from Active Directory or from Azure, cloud-based Azure Active Directory, to add, delete, and update the users through synchronizations intervals. You can set up intervals to do the synchronizations and always keep the information up to date and synchronized between AuthPoint and the AD. So let's call the first user here. Fabio is my name. Last name is not required. Username is Mansur. Let's use my actual email here from WatchGuard. And I just have this group, so I'm going to associate my user to this group. I'm going to get to why the group is important when I talk about the policies, okay? So once I save this user, what happens here? You see that I have the user as an active user here, that's shown as green, but my token information here on the right shows as pending. So what happened behind the scene is that when the user was created, my email here, watchguard.com, is going to receive two emails. One to set my password and another one to activate my token. So of course the set password is required because I'm doing a local user. Let's say it's not Active Directory user. If it was Active Directory user, I don't have access to the AuthPoint does not have access to the user's password. It's all validated in AD or in Azure. But here in this case, I got this email. I'm going to set my password for my end user. So now I'm experienced as the end user that was issued a token to start using, right? So let's set up a password here. A safe secret password. So this is set. And then as an end user, I also receive this email to activate my mobile token. So it goes to a link here where it opens a QR code. And let me just bring my mobile phone here. And this on the right is my AuthPoint mobile app. It's running on my Android. If I was a new user, this is going to be, the list of tokens would be empty here. I have like a bunch of them because I always do tests. So let's add a new one. Basically, what the end user needs to do is simply to click here on this QR code icon and point here. Okay. So it activates the token. Like I said, it generates a unique and non-transferable or non-copyable token. And you have also options to edit the name of the token, to give a friendly name like webinar for Vertex. And I could even add an image to the token. Let's say my beer that I had yesterday here. Let's select this here. So I identify my token here with an image. It goes to the end of the list here because I have a bunch of tokens, but I can simply drag and drop upper if I want. So let's just move it a little bit upper here as the first one. And then here it goes. Webinar for Vertex is my mobile token. As an end user, it's activated. I customized it using my own image, my own name here. Okay, and I cannot use this QR code anymore because it's already activated. Now it's invalid. And if my token, if my mobile is cloned, this token becomes useless. Okay. So now going back to the operator view, you see that the token information here was just updated to show the ID of the token. And if I click here, I have some information about my mobile phone where the token was activated here. And I can do operations like block token, deleted token. I can manage my user and my tokens from this screen, okay? So my user is set, but what am I protecting? I don't have anything yet to be protected. So let's go here to the resources. That is the place where I define what I want to protect. Like I said, we can protect the web portals or web applications that support SAML for single sign-on. We can protect the login to the machines for Windows and for Mac, both local access, like you're sitting in front of a computer, or remote access using RDP, the Windows. You can protect our own Firebox, our own firewalls, the Firebox, with a direct integration. We can protect other firewalls using Radius protocol, other applications using SAML, ADFS, RDWeb, and our APIs to customize. Okay, so a great range of different types of applications that can be protected here. Let's do a quick one here that is the IDP portal. So I just add a resource here for IDP. I type here a name, webinar, and I create an account alias here. That's gonna be the URL that I'm gonna use to access the SAML portal, the single sign-on portal. So X webinar. And you see that completed here, my URL. And also I save here. That's it. I have a SAML single sign-on portal already set up and available to be used for my users. Okay. What is the missing piece to complete the configuration? It's the policies. So the policies is the glue that ties the groups. So that's why the group is important when I set the user, the resource, and what options of MFA I'm going to provide for people accessing that. So let's add a policy here. Let's just say webinar policy here, webinar MFA policy. I can set, for example, I can request for the user to type a password. I can provide an option for him to use a push, a QR code, or an OTP. So these are an option for the user. He can use push or QR code or OTP if I mark the three of them and provide. So they're not like all mandatory. It's an option for him to choose for. And the password becomes mandatory in this case. I could also like uncheck the password, for example. If I don't want to use a password, I can rely only on the push, for example. In this case, let's put all the options here. For which groups I want to add this policy. So only users belong to the groups that I selected here are gonna be subject to the policy. So my user was on the group webinar. I could also create a policy with all groups, for example. So it applies to everybody. Let's just keep the webinar here. I'm sorry, it shows up this. And the resources, like I said, we just have our webinar IDP portal created, or I could also choose all resources. Let's do for the webinar. So what this policy says to me, whenever the user belongs to the group webinar, trying to access the IDP portal, is going to be subject to these MFA options. Okay. Let's just do that, and then I come back later to show more policy options for you. No questions so far? Okay, looks good. So let's get here to the resource I created. I have the link here, so let's open this link now. Then I'm back to my end user hat. So I'm trying to log in to the portal. You can also customize or brand your IDP portal. It shows the logo of your own company here. But let's see here, I'm trying to log in as F. Mansur. Then it shows me the options. Like I said, the password is mandatory as I set that on the policy. And I have the options to send a push, QR code, or OTP here. So let's use the push. Let me bring my mobile phone back here. Okay, let me just minimize. Okay, you see both. Now, whenever I click here to send the push, I'm going to receive the information here on the right. If I'm trying to sign in, it shows me my username, the time. And like I said, we have some context information here. I'm in Brazil, in this city called Santa Rita do Sapucaí. The state I live is Minas Gerais, so it's my place here, Brazil. I'm using a Chrome browser in a Windows machine, and I'm trying to access the webinar IDP portal. Okay. You asked about the timeout. So we also have mechanisms to time out the push. If I don't reply the push in time, it's going to time out and invalidate this push. Okay. So if I don't recognize this information that I'm pressing here, I can simply deny the push. But in this case here, let's approve. So I just approved. I did a login. I don't have any applications because this is the portal to enter my single sign-on ecosystems and my SAML ecosystem with single sign-on. And then as I add the applications here, like Salesforce or Office 365 or Citrix or whatever applications I want to protect, they are going to show up on this portal here, and I can access them without no need to authenticate anymore. We'll do a single sign-on to access them. Okay. So you see that took me like 10 minutes explaining you how to set up a first application, how to create a user, activate the token, and did an authentication, right? So let's just explore a little bit more. And let's try again the login using my username. Then I'm gonna type, sorry, incorrect password. Now let's see the QR code. QR code is a good option. It's safer than using only OTP. OTP is subject to social engineering, right? So someone have access to your credential, like Carla said, credentials breached are the main reason for unwanted access to your information or to your systems. So if someone has your password but does not have your MFA factor to do that, someone can trick you each calling you and say, hey, I'm in support here. You need to provide me an OTP because I need to verify your account, or I need to unblock your user, or whatever social engineering techniques he can ask you. But the QR code makes it a little bit more difficult because I need also to click here on my QR code icon here and just point here to the screen. So I need to be in front of this screen to do the login, and I need to type my verification code that shows here, 477808, and then I'm able to log in. Okay. The QR code is also very helpful when you're doing a Windows or Mac authentication, local to the machine, and you're offline. So you're on an airport, for example, you're on a plane, and you don't have a connection, internet connection. You're not able to do a push authentication, right? You're not going to receive the push. The machine is not connected. Even your phone might not be connected. But doing a QR code or even an OTP, you can do this offline, right? So for the sake of time, I just want to show quickly the flexibility of the policies here. If you go here to policy objects, we have a couple of factors that can be added to the verification of the policy. So for example, network location. Network location, you can define a policy where you define a range of IP addresses, and you can apply a different policy for the IP address. So let's do an example. You're inside the office, your office, and of course this office has an IP address, and then you can just put your IP address here. It's like we do in WatchGuard, for example. We have our corporate IP address added as a network location here. And then let's just do some dummy just to show like the configuration. Then it should be actually a public IP address. I'm just doing here for demo purposes. I don't want to show it's actually working. I just want to show how easy it is to associate it to your policy. So I created a policy object here as a network location. And then when I go to my authentication policy here, I can simply come here and associate this existing policy to my authentication policy. And then it's gonna check also for my network or my IP addresses to check if I meet the criteria of the origin IP address. Then I'm gonna show the MFA options. Like I said, in our own company, we just do like this. If you are in a network location that is reliable or is in the office, we don't require the MFA, we simply require a password, or you could even not allow authentications at all for these IP addresses, for example. So you have flexibility like this for networks, for countries, doing geofence, you can define countries here, and for time as well. So you can define times of the day or days, holidays that you don't want, like, for example, you don't want people to access your applications during weekends. So you can set up this as a time schedule. Or if it's working hours and it's within the office, you can combine both. You can do a password only request, but if it's out of working hours, even if it's inside the company, you can request MFA. So a big flexibility here, okay? And just a final comment here for the sake of time. Sorry, I talked too much. Audit logs. So everything that is done is tracked here. The configurations that are done and the authentications that are authorized or denied, they all have the trails, the audit trails here with information of the type of resource you're accessing. If you use a password and QR code, for example, last one I did, it was authorized, the token, the IP of the user, the policy that was used to authenticate, location of the user. So we have a pretty good coverage of trails as well, trail records as well as reports here. So we have reports showing authentications during the time, which person did the authentications, which resources were authenticated to, a lot of different reports here to help you monitor and manage your company. And if you're not managing, that helps Vertex to manage for you, okay? So that was the quick demo. I hope I give you an idea of how easy it is to set up a single, a first identity portal to start using, how it's easy for the user to activate his email or activate his token and start doing authentications. And that's what I wanted to show. Of course, you can have more and more resources like do a VPN, you do the sync for the Active Directory, lots of advanced configurations, but we also have, sorry, I missed to show you this, the wizards for that. So here you have wizards and it guides you through the steps, like let's add a group. It's gonna show you explanations of each step and it's gonna point you, oh, sorry, they are doing a production upgrade here today. That's the time they do the upgrades. Exactly the time. Thursday afternoon is the time they do the upgrades. So I just need to reload, going back here. And going back to the wizards. Let me hide this. And I want to add a group. I go here. Yeah, so I need to log out and log in again because it's the time they do the upgrades. But that's the idea. The wizard is gonna point to each field and each information you need to provide to create the user, to configure like a VPN, for example. Like here, just getting back quickly. To configure a VPN, when you set your radio server, you set your firewall to do the VPN. When you do the sync with Active Directory, when you do, you install the agents to protect the computers, the Windows and Mac computers, how to install the agents to protect those, and also to import hardware tokens. Like I said, we support hardware tokens. Then you can also import them here as well. Okay. So going back to the slides, Carla, please.
I'll
no
switch
questions
back
came
over
up.
to her. Nope, no questions since Jim's question earlier. So we'll turn it back over to her, and then we'll see if we have any questions that come up during the last little bit we have.
Great. Are you seeing my key takeaways slide?
We are.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Fabio. That was a great demo. And although it's not the end user responsibility for the participants today to know all the details of how to administer and how the platform works necessarily, I think it gives you an inside look of how quickly you can deploy MFA inside your organization when you work with a trusted partner like Vertex. And I think you really landed that today, Fabio. Thanks. So in terms of key takeaways, most attacks start with the stolen credential. We covered that pretty well. The data shows that it's consistent year over year, whether you read or catch up with the news and the Verizon data breach report. It's pretty much unchanged, except in the case when MFA has been deployed. We're starting to see results, especially in large enterprise. We'd love to see it in mid-market, small business, state and local government, education. So that's why we're all here today, is to create MFA everywhere. You can't control how well users are going to take care of company passwords. The reality is there's a lot of them, and we ask a lot of our users, and you as workers all realize that you live with this day in and day out. MFA will help and does 99.9% in terms of capability, effectiveness. You want effective security controls. So you don't want things that are 80% of the way. You want 99.9% of the way. 100% would be best. But nothing is absolutely secure in this world. MFA is not an option anymore. It's required. It is what Zero Trust is all about. Never trust, assume breach, always verify. Always verify is all about users. It's all about making sure that you know who the user is. Whether it's in healthcare for HIPAA and privacy compliance, cyber insurance, which we talked about, and certainly based on the executive order from Biden, the US government agencies require it now, and it's mandated. And of course, for RDP access. Last but not least, WatchGuard AuthPoint is fast, cost-effective way to implement MFA. As we showed you today, hopefully you saw how simple it is for your provider to deploy it to you and the flexibility that it has in terms of what you need as an organization. But most of all, it's really in line with experiences that you probably already have today with some of your social experiences with your bank, or maybe with other applications where you also want to turn on enhanced security. Last but not least, we've provided a QR code here today that you can scan and start a free trial. And Vertex, of course, is available to help you with any needs you have going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So this QR code takes you over. It's a very easy step-by-step process to set it up. And we're happy to help as well. You can reach out to one of our team members. And if you have any direct questions or anything, I know that Jim was talking about CJIS compliances, because a lot of local, state, and government have to be compliant with CJIS. And we've got some great people on our team that know ins and outs of everything there. And then obviously the contracting to give you guys the ability, especially in local and state government, to purchase these with a little bit of a discount as well. So we'll go ahead and wrap up our webinar. Thank you again for joining us. And thank you everybody from WatchGuard.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.